Hello and welcome to the February 12th, 2024 episode of Nick's News. Get my stuff all set up. There we go. I am your host, Nick, brought to you by Some Budget Studios. That's right, I'm finally putting some money into all of this. We're here on We're on every other Sunday, and I thank you all so very much for tuning in or catching the replay on the Facebook page. That's right, we're on Facebook Meta, whatever the hell it's called this week. We are branching out to YouTube, so we will be getting the YouTube page up at some point. This is a program dedicated to bringing some good news to counter all of the bad news that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, with the hope of bringing a little bit of joy back to the world. Many of our articles are pulled from goodnewsnetwork.org, but we also appreciate articles sent in by you, the viewers. I was only slightly late, Sean. Only slightly late. Slightly. I was off by like a minute, I think. And then I started the countdown, so, you know. So what do we have for our news brew? Our news brew today is Villainess. Villainess from Guardian Brewing Company out of Saugatuck, Michigan. This is a 9% ABV Imperial Oreo Stout. That's right, 80 pounds of cookies and cream go into making this beer. My friend Jason gave me a bottle. I traded it to him for a bottle of I gave him a bottle of triple mash dragon's milk that just came out, and he got me this. So thank you very much, Jason. I am not unprepared. I have all of my articles prepared. I actually proofread a few of them so I can get names down, Sean. I'm being progressive. So let's get this bottle open. Oh my. So I already had a barrel-aged variant of this, and the barrel was really strong. It was a very powerful whiskey barrel. And so it took a lot of the Oreo out of it. So Jason even commented that was the case, so he grabbed me this so I can try this. So this is what we call laminar flow in physics. We want to get all that gas out of there. Every last drop. It's definitely got an Oreo cookie nose to it. I am looking forward to this beer. We are, of course, going to be drinking it out of our Harpoon limited edition snifter because I absolutely love Harpoon. A couple of my glasses are from Harpoon. Shoutouts. So, a team won the ultimate sports ball. It wasn't the Lions or the Patriots. Whatever. I don't care. Moving on. News quote. We are celebrating Valentine's Day this upcoming Wednesday, the 14th. So, I think it was Eliza last time suggested doing a quote for Valentine's Day. So I picked out one, and it goes something like, "Love isn't something you find. Love is something that finds you." And that is from Loretta Young, famous American actress. Was extremely prevalent in the days of black and white and the transition to television. So, love isn't something you find. Love is something that finds you. Thank you very much for that, Loretta Young. Cheers. And when it rolls along, happy Valentine's Day to everybody. And there's Eliza right there. I couldn't find a good Gandhi or Buddha quote, because the Buddha quote I found that was nice wasn't said by Buddha, so I went with that instead. Cheers, everybody. And when it rolls around, happy Valentine's Day. Wow. I'm happy with that beer. Sean, you weren't kidding. Oreo stouts are tasty AF. Wow, that has a lot of flavor to it. That is like cookies and cream ice cream, just in beer form. It's not overly boozy either, so it masks that 9% really well. Yes, Nick approved. Bug update. It's pretty quiet in the bug world now that Mr. Cricket has been silenced. Annie, our resident orb weaver, is doing well. She's still continuing to eat, which is a good sign. Usually, she's in the advanced age for a spider of her species. So it's good that she is still up and about and is eating. I'm pretty sure at this point her eggs are infertile because I haven't had anything hatch. It's a sad, but it's also a blessing because spiderlings are very difficult to care for. And though I did prepare the tank a little bit for such, you know, it's all right that they didn't hatch. The beetle population continues to grow, and they act like a circus troupe of clowns more than actual bugs. Like, they're very social creatures, and I constantly, because they're very hard exoskeletoned beetles, I constantly hear them, like, roughhousing and running around in their tank at night if I'm up. So, they're really funny to watch. The roaches are fat, lazy, content, which is about the best you can hope for them. They're pretty chill. I need something new. I need something to shake up the bug universe. Something different. But we'll see what happens. So we'll get into our good news. Our broadcast is broken up into 4 major categories, and those categories are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and those wholesome notes, those really nice feely articles that we like to end on. So we're going to start off with our first category, which is science and technology. And I will copy and paste this into the chat for y'all to read along if you would like. Oh, did I hit the wrong thing? I gotta double check here. It's always a toss-up whether or not I hit the wrong the wrong button. Nope, looks like I hit the right one. All right, I will copy and paste this our first article into the chat if y'all want to read along. I called this one Unlimited Power. But the actual title is Largest U.S. Solar Storage Project Goes Online. Enough for 250,000 homes. The nation's largest solar energy and storage project came online in California last week, offering 875 megawatt hours of solar capacity and 3 gigawatt hours of storage. Partially located on Edwards Air Force Base grounds in Kern County, California, the Edwards and Sanborn Solar and Energy Storage Project is expected to provide the California grid with enough renewable energy to power 233,000 homes. A half-dozen companies teamed up with the Department of Defense for the project, including LG, Samsung, TerraGen, Mortenson, and others, and it consists of 1.9 million US-made solar panels. Now fully operational, oh boy, here we go. This facility is a transformational project in the industry and is providing resiliency to the grid, said Brian Gorda, Vice President of Engineering at TerraGen. The Mortenson team was tasked with an extremely difficult goal to build this project, and they proved to be the right partner for the job. The farm spans 4,600 acres of sunny desert flatland. Edwards and Sanborn will send its electricity to the city of San Jose, Southern California, Edison, the utility companies of Pacific Gas and Electric and Clean Power Alliance, and the headquarters of the Starbucks Corporation. Right, the Department of Defense is involved. Wait a second. Yes, it is above water, as far as we can tell. I knew that question was coming. Approximately 320,000 tons of CO2 will be mitigated with the incredible scope of the project, which was funded with several big money financing rounds that included JP Morgan Chase and Deutsche Bank as investors. So it is pretty crazy. The DoD is involved, so it could become a weapon down the road. We don't know. But for now, This massive solar energy farm is going to be providing enough energy to power up to 233,000 homes. It's an amazing undertaking. It looks insane. And to everybody involved with getting behind green energy projects and showing the power of green energy, cheers. Moving on to Article 2, I call this next one Slim Hit the Mark. And I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. Let me move that out of the way. Nope, let me move that completely out of the way. That was blocking my chat. Japan Moonlander comes back to life after wonky angle for its solar panel, but unprecedented pinpoint landing. Possibly. His name is Slim Shady. Sean, maybe. We don't know. It's a case of 5 alive for the Japanese space program when their craft, which was set to make them the 5th nation to land on the moon, seemed to have been lost after a wonky landing. Landing on its side with its solar panels pointing away from the sun, the small lander was shut down for days, and this mistake nearly cost the mission everything. But as has been the case with the recent history of spacefaring, the problem was resolved. And the Smart Lander for Investigating Moon, or SLIM, made Japan the 5th nation after the USA, Soviet Union, China, and India to achieve a soft landing on our nearest celestial body. Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, also known as the JAXA, posted on X, Twitter, that a change in the lighting conditions allowed their solar panels to recharge the batteries, which had been shut off by authorities in the early hours of the start of the mission on January 20th. It's a good thing, too, because the spacecraft pulled off what JAXA described as an unprecedented pinpoint landing of 180 feet off the targeted area, the highest precision landing ever achieved on the moon, and an achievement that would have been hard to boast about if the craft had landed on its side, immediately lost power, and died. In fact, the technology... I'll get to the chat in just a second. In fact, the technology used to land SLIM could bring craft down safely onto lunar hilltops, which are theorized as perfect places to look for various chemicals like oxygen and hydrogen to fuel the production of water and air for astronauts in the future. Late last year, India's Chandrayaan-3 rover mission touched down on the moon's south pole, an area never seen or explored before, to rapturous celebrations in Earth's most populous nation, which we did cover in Nick's News in a previous episode. It does indeed live. We all take tumbles sometimes. Yabari Nippon! It did stick the landing just a whole lot. Yeah. His palms were sweaty. Missed his mom's spaghetti. Oh, the slim jokes for this rover, or for this rover are gonna be fun. It is pretty crazy to stick a landing being 180 feet off. It literally is the closest to any target point anyone's ever had throwing things at the moon, including people. So, I think, God, didn't Apollo 11 go like a football field off course or something like that? It was nuts. But yeah, congratulations to the JAXA and to the SLIM lander for coming back online and getting ready to do its job. So that's huge. 5th nation on the moon. Congrats to Japan. Cheers. Stop it, you. Stop it. No, we do miss... No, we just make happy little accidents like the Mars lander. We don't talk about the Mars lander. You better lose yourself. It's the moon. It's your moment. You own it now. It's more than math, you jackass. All right, let's get back to it. All right, we're going to get out of science and technology. We're going to move on to category 2, health and medicine. First article I've got in here. This was the one that I talked about on the last Nick's News. I pulled it. One of my friends gave this to me in a Discord chat, or well, he posted it in a Discord chat. So, I called it. It's finally lupus. If you ever watched House, it was a long-standing joke with the show. It was never lupus until finally on one random episode, it was lupus. So, let's paste this into the chat. Y'all can read along if you would like. It is a little bit of a scientific journal, so bear with me. We're going to slog through it. Lupus trigger discovered. Sometimes a single mutation in our genetic makeup is enough to cause disease. This is also the case with the autoimmune disease lupus. Lupus causes severe inflammation throughout the body and can have a serious impact on the lives of those affected. Researchers at the Max Planck Institute for Infection Biology in Berlin have now discovered a mechanism that can trigger lupus in children. This mechanism regulates the amount of a specific immune receptor that normally recognizes the genetic material of pathogens. If this mechanism is disrupted, receptors accumulate in the immune cells, leading to the recognition of the body's own genetic material. As a result, the immune system turns against its own body and causes the systemic inflammation of lupus. In collaboration with physicians from the Hospital of the Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich, the researchers were able to identify a lupus patient in whom this mechanism is disrupted by a single mutation. Let's see what it is, Eliza. The innate immune system responds to invading pathogens within minutes. It is an initial line of defense that keeps pathogens at bay until the more specific adaptive immune system kicks in. However, this speed comes at a price. The innate immune system's response is so strong and unspecific that it must be well controlled to prevent it from turning against the body itself. In Olivia Mayer's group at the Max Planck Institute for Infection Biology, researchers are working to better understand these control mechanisms of the innate immune system. The group is focusing on an immune receptor called toll-like receptor 7, which can recognize the genetic material of viruses and bacteria and then triggers an immune response against the invaders. So it might not be C4, it might be... It's a toll-like receptor 7. Interesting. In order for the immune system to react quickly, a certain number of these receptors must be present in the immune cells. Oh, interesting. Let me start over. In order for the immune system to react quickly, a certain number of these receptors must be present in the immune cells. Cells maintain this balance by constantly producing and degrading receptors. We wanted to understand what happens when this balance is disturbed, explains group leader Olivia Mayer. During their work, Mayer's team became interested in a protein complex called BORC, B-O-R-C. The researchers were able to show that BORC is required to degrade toll-like receptor 7 within the cell. In addition, BORC needs another protein, UNC93B1, to carry out the degradation process correctly. If there is an error in this process, the receptor is not degraded and accumulates in the immune cells. From earlier experiments in mice carried out a few years ago, at the University of Berkeley in California, we already knew that too many of these receptors are a problem, explains Mayer. A greater amount of receptor biases towards recognizing the body's own genetic material. This leads to an immune response against self, a trigger for the autoimmune disease lupus. So far, neither BORC nor UNC93B1 have been associated with lupus in humans. Bjork suing for copyright infringement. The researchers received confirmation of their findings by phone. Fabian Hawk teaches, researches, and treats patients at the Ludwig Maximilian University Hospital in Munich, and specializes in congenital immune disorders such as lupus. He became aware of Mayer's research because one of his patients had a mutation in the gene for a previously unnoticed protein, UNC93B1. It was precisely this protein that Mayer had identified with her team. When I got the first call from Fabian Hock, I thought it was too good to be true, says Mayer, but within 8 busy weeks of joint effort, we were able to confirm that the mutation in UNC93B1 was the cause of this patient's lupus. Hock and Mayer's findings have now been published in the prestigious journal Science Immunology. At the same time, the journal also published the work of a research group at the Technical University of Dresden, with whom the two researchers collaborate. In their study, the Dresden scientists identified additional UNC93B1 mutations that can trigger lupus. The researchers have uncovered a completely new mechanism that triggers a particularly aggressive form of lupus. Severe symptoms develop as early as infancy, while many other forms of lupus only appear in adults. Testing for mutations in UNC93B1 could quickly become part of lupus's treatment, opening up new approaches to therapy. In the past, doctors have mainly focused on suppressing inflammation with drugs. By targeting the mechanisms that have now been discovered, it may be possible to prevent inflammation from developing in the first place, and thus significantly reduce the disease burden for those affected. Self-imploding meat. Bjork suing for copyright. Yes. To everybody involved in all parties, discovering a new trigger for lupus and hopefully in the future, new ways to treat it and prevent it. Cheers. Oh, I got a joke out of it. I got a laugh out of that one. Big Pharma will bury it. Oh, jeez. All right, this next one came from Ed. So, Ed, thank you so much for sending this in. It is cancer related. So, what do we call those articles? Cancer. Fuck cancer. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along with me. No cervical cancer cases detected in vaccinated women following HPV immunization. An exciting new study from Public Health Scotland, the PHS, in collaboration with the universities of Strathclyde and Edinburgh, shows that no cervical cancer cases have been detected in fully vaccinated women following the human papillomavirus, HPV, immunization at age 12 to 13 since the program started in Scotland in 2008. The study, published in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute today, and this was published on the 22nd of January, concludes that the HPV vaccine is highly effective in preventing the development of cervical cancer. HPV is a common virus usually spread through sexual contact and responsible for almost all cases of cervical cancer, the fourth most common cancer of women worldwide. So if we can knock number 4 off the board, gives us more time and effort to focus on 3, 2, and 1. The HPV vaccine is offered as a routine immunization through school-based programs to all S1 pupils in Scotland. It helps to protect both boys and girls from other HPV-related cancers later in life, such as head, neck, and anogenital cancers, as well as genital warts. This year's HPV immunization program is already underway, with consent forms having been sent home from schools across most of Scotland. Young people are encouraged to talk to their parents or carers about the vaccine and return the signed consent forms by the deadline. Sorry to hear that, Sean. Dr. Kirsty Roy, consultant in health protection, PHS, and co-author of this encouraging study, said, "This study involves every woman in Scotland who is eligible for the cervical cancer screening program and demonstrates the impact of the HPV vaccine in preventing cervical cancer. It shows how effective the HPV vaccine is, as there have been no cervical cancer cases to date in fully vaccinated women who were given their first dose at age 12 to 13 years. Vaccination against HPV is shown to be effective in preventing cervical cancer, and along with regular screening for early detection and treatment, it is possible to make cervical cancer a rare disease." Yeah, that really is it's a 1-2 punch. We'll see when it expands. I know that there's one that's available here in the States, and I remember years ago there was a push for it, but I haven't heard much about it since. Dr. Claire Cameron, consultant in health protection PHS, said, by continuing to vaccinate against HPV related cancers and encouraging uptake of screening, we hope to see them eliminated in the future. I would encourage all S1 pupils in Scotland to take up the offer of the free HPV vaccine in the coming months to protect themselves against future risks. PHS is working closely with Scottish Government and local health boards to ensure the continued uptake of the key cervical cancer prevention measures, the HPV vaccine and routine screening. Dr. Tasman Summerfield, clinical advisor for screening at National Screening Oversight, NSO, said, while the HPV vaccine protects against a lot of different types of HPV viruses that cause cancer, it can't protect against them all, and it's still important that you go for regular cervical screening. Screening can find changes in the cells in your cervix even if you feel healthy and have no symptoms. If these are found at an early stage, they are much easier to treat. So this isn't a catch-all, as nothing is, but it does give you an added level of protection. Cervical screening is the best way of finding out if you are at risk of cervical cancer, and I would urge everyone to take up their offer of an appointment. Minister for Public Health Jenny Minto said, we welcome the findings of this report, which shows there have been no cases of cervical cancer detected to date in fully vaccinated women who were given their first dose at age 12 and 13 years old. The HPV vaccine program is having a huge impact on preventing these cancers for those who have been vaccinated. Vaccination and screening remain the most effective ways of preventing and detecting cervical cancer, and I would encourage those eligible to come forward to have the vaccine or attend screening appointments. Well, that's really cool. To everybody in Scotland that is going to make HPV a thing of the past and hopefully spread this across the world, cheers. I think they do offer it to men. I remember there being a thing that it was for both sexes. Like it was being marketed for both gender. Well, for everybody. Let's put it that way. So spread health, not HPV. Yeah, I remember something. Oh, if it is or isn't in your vaccine list, yeah. Transatlantic. Oh yeah, probably be a shit show to get records, but yeah, that's real interesting. We all remember it. Is this like a Mandela effect thing? Like, is this an alternate universe thing? Yeah, same. I might do some digging. Well, I will do some digging after this and look into it and see if it's something I should add to my long list of immunizations. But I mean, if it helps, why not get it? All right, what do we got for our next one? Ah, yes, cancer. Fuck cancer again. I'll copy and paste this in the chat if y'all want to read along. Kinder than chemo cancer drug cured this young man of leukemia and is available in the US. Picture a very unhappy situation. You have leukemia. That sounds like the start of a damn Super Bowl ad and not a good one. Jesus Christ. Picture a very unhappy situation. You have leukemia. What are your options? Everyone knows about the side effects of chemo, and most people will have some idea about the Nobel Prize winning CAR T cell therapy, but there's also a third option. It seems startling to be so overlooked because it's so straightforward. I did not pre-read this article, sorry. Blinatumomab. Oh, I'm sorry, Lily. Blinatumomab cured the young fellow above of his B-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia. The BBC reports that 20 medical centres in the UK are already using off-brand stocks of blinatumomab to treat this cancer, and the country has already approved the drug for adult use. Blina, as it's referred to for short, and we're going to call it Blina here on out, is also an immunotherapy drug. It seeks out and kills cancer cells that typically disguise themselves from the body's innate immune system. However, unlike chimeric antigen receptor T cells, also known as CAR T cells, Blina is cheaper. Why isn't everybody using Blina? Blina is a kind of targeted therapy drug called a bispecific T-cell engager, or BiTE. It's administered via a pump and plastic bag through a tube inserted into the patient's arm. The bag is carried around in a slim backpack, and the supply lasts a few days. CAR T-cell therapy requires a patient's cells to be taken out and modified to fight off whichever cancer is present, which takes time. Like CAR T, the healthy normal cells are not destroyed as in the case of chemotherapy, allowing the patient to continue leading a mostly normal life. Chemotherapies are poisons that kill the leukemic cells, but also kill and damage normal cells, and that is what causes their side effects, said Chief Investigator and Consultant Pediatric Hematologist Professor Ajay Vora to the BBC. Blinatumomab is a gentler, kinder treatment. Gentler on the body, not on the cancer. Arthur, now 11, was one of the first kids to receive the treatment at Great Ormond Street Hospital in London. His family got the word that his blood cancer was cured on New Year's Eve. What a beautiful gift right after Christmas to find out that your child's cancer is cured. Like, wow. Gotcha. Gotcha, Sean. Having started chemo years before, which both left him very weak and failed to kill the cancer, the family called Blina a little ray of sunshine and said that they celebrated the new year twice as hard. On March 29th of 2018, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration granted accelerated approval to blinatumomab after successful trial results, though serious side effects were not uncommon. It is available for B-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia treatment. So if anybody ever runs into having B-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia, consider Blina. That is really cool to everybody involved in the production of Blina, and to Arthur, who on New Year's Eve got to learn that they were cancer-free. Cheers. Whew, that beer is good. All right, so that gets us out of our second category of health and medicine and bumps us into category 3, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals. This first article was sent in by Charlie. So, Charlie, thank you very much for sending this in. I called this one The Young Digging Up the Old, but I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along with me. A 13-year-old found a 5-million-year-old fossil, and now there's a new species of walrus named in his honor. In 2011, a 13-year-old fossil hunter on a beach near Bluffs in Santa Cruz, California, happened across the find of a lifetime, the complete skull of an unknown 5-million-year-old walrus species encased in a giant boulder. His discovery has now led to the identification of that ancient species of walrus, which scientists named after the 13-year-old in his honor in a recent paper published in the peer-reviewed Journal of Vertebrate Paleontology. An enthusiast since the age of 9, Forrest Shepard would go hunting 2 to 3 times a week, finding shells, shark teeth, and whale bones. I was just absolutely on fire and ecstatic about finding fossils, he told Business Insider. I had been fossil hunting enough to know what fossilized bone looks like, he said. So when he came across the boulder, he recognized from the shape that it was probably encasing a skull, and he, with the help of a friend, hauled the 70-pound rock back to his parents' car. Shepard, who's in medical school now, credits the paleontologist at the Santa Cruz Museum of Natural History with identifying many of his fossil finds and connecting him with Robert Bossenecker, an expert in marine mammal fossils. 11 years after Shepard found it, Bossenecker named the newly identified walrus species Villainess shepardi, after Shepard's last name. This fossil was found by a 13-year-old kid, Bossenecker told Business Insider. I think that's really remarkable. Ironically, Bossenecker used to comb the same beach looking for fossils. I've been going there since I was 15, so Forrest got luckier than I did, he said. Between graduate school and earning his doctorate, Bossenecker took more than a decade to free the skull, but as he finally started to remove the hard sandstone surrounding it, he realized there were no sockets in its jaw for teeth, just a place for its upper tusks. The lack of teeth was a clear sign the skull didn't belong to modern walruses, since modern species have teeth, which they use to communicate by clacking together, but not to eat with. Bossenecker determined the skull belonged to the genus Villainess, the closest extinct relative to living walruses. But because the new skull was older and larger than other Villainess species and had some physiological differences, Bossenecker suspected it was an unknown species. He promised to name it after Shepard. That's obviously such a huge accomplishment for any fossil collector to be able to not just find a cool fossil, but to be able to find a fossil that really contributes to our understanding in a big new way, Shepard said. Millions of years ago, more than a dozen walrus species roamed the planet. Today, only 2 subspecies are left, which tells us something weird has happened to walruses in the past couple million years, Bossenecker said. Ancient walruses used to live in California, which probably had a similar climate 5 million years ago to what it has now, Bossenecker said. That's wildly different from the frigid Arctic temperatures today's walruses prefer. Between 2 million and 7 million years ago, something happened to the west coast that caused a lot of species to disappear. There's all sorts of weirdos that you find in rocks in California from that time, Bossenecker said. In addition to walruses, there were odd-looking marine mammals, unusual extinct birds, and strange fish. We had giant bony-toothed birds flying around up until about 2 million years ago or so, he said. A lot of Villainess's bizarre companions started disappearing around the same time. So what happened on the west coast? Bossenecker posed. Why did we have this incredible species of faunal turnover? He said scientists thought it had to do with a dramatic change in the geography of the California coastline that occurred about 3 or 4 million years ago. Before the change, the Los Angeles Basin and southern San Joaquin Valley were shallow marine bays that made perfect foraging grounds for walruses and other marine mammals. But changes in climate and the emergence of the Sierra Mountains both contributed to the loss of those marine bays and the walrus's food supply, said Bossenecker. I like to focus on these sorts of young fossils because it gives us a little bit of perspective of what we still have on the California coastline, said Bossenecker. It's an incredible ecosystem, and it's changed quite a bit in the past few million years. Which rock are we going to find me in? Bedrock. I'm going to be way down. Wow, so that is really cool. Huge congrats to, where was his full name again? Those are the Bosseneckers. Forrest Shepard, for finding a brand new species of walrus and to everybody involved in its identification and naming it after him. Cheers. Oh, and thank you very much to Charlie for sending this one in. Cheers. Well, ma. Gosh. All right, what did I call this next one? Let's see. Cruising right along. The Dodo of the Bug World. And this one was sent in by Cassidy. So thank you very much, Cassidy. And I will copy and paste this one into the chat if y'all want to read along. Do not make me snort the Oreos. Do not. Hi, Cassidy. All right. Weevils! I love weevils. Weevils found in the Philippine rainforest, almost like discovering a dodo bird. Look at that weevil. It's an adorable weevil. A University of Alberta researcher has unearthed 2 species of weevils, one new and one thought to have been extinct, that have managed to survive clear-cutting of the Philippines rainforest. The discoveries, published in POWAH, are an encouraging sign of the potential for wildlife to recover from human-made disruption, says Tom Terzin, an Augustana campus biology professor who made the identifications. Nature is amazingly resilient if we give it a chance for recovery, he remarks. He made the finds while sifting through beetle samples that had been plucked from bushes in northern Negros National Park on Negros Island in 2016 and 2017. Located in the central Philippines, the tropical island's virgin rainforest had been almost completely wiped out by logging, agriculture, and population growth by the end of the 20th century. As part of a larger project to find out how insect life had fared, Terzin, whose undergraduate research lab studies color patterns and mimicry in insects, when one species imitates another, noticed a short-nosed weevil that stood out not for its pattern, but for its plainness. That's harsh. Hi, Donna. Oh, jeez. Back to the article. The black bug, about half a centimeter long, didn't have the metallic sheen of its relatives, but a scattering of light scales across its surface that didn't form a pattern. This guy was a bit strange, some sort of rebel in refusing to mimic the species, notes Terzin. Called Metapocertus, Trachycertus augustani, the new specimen is named for Augustana campus, and Terzin is excited about the implication of its discovery. It could mean there's a redirection of the habitats of these species, evolutionarily speaking, and being only known from a single specimen for now indicates it's probably a rare species, he notes. Discovering the new species was something Terzin had dreamed of since childhood. It's also what I dreamed of when I was a kid and wanted to be an entomologist. When he first became fascinated by the makeup of beetles. He explains they behave like tiny natural robots. They have an exoskeleton and segmented bodies, and they crawl around obeying simple rules. If there's an obstacle in their way, they usually go around it, which is generally how a robot would behave. He's even more enthused about rediscovering another short-nosed weevil known as Metapocertus, Orthocyrtus bifoviatus. Latin is rough. That's gonna kill me. Alberta is the Texas of Canada. Oh, I didn't know Canada had a Texas. Back to the news. Holy crap. So Metapocertus orthocyrtus bifoviatus was last sighted on the island 100 years ago. Known to live only in the rainforest lowlands, which were wiped out by deforestation, the colorful insect was thought to be extinct. But this sample was found in a much higher forested area of the island. Somehow this species has managed to survive in higher altitudes over 1,000 meters, which shows a struggle for life that they refuse to become extinct from deforestation. In the world of insects, it's almost like discovering a dodo bird, says Terzin. Though weevils, which are the largest family of beetles, are a natural part of the rainforest, knowing that these two types exist is important, since they could potentially become pests, particularly in the face of climate change, Terzin adds. They're like asteroids that cross the Earth's orbit. Some of them can be dangerous, but they're even more dangerous if we don't know about them. So it's important to monitor their population, and that means we first need to discover them. Both of the specimens now hold pride of place in Augustana Tropical Insects Research Studio Entomology Collection, where they can be accessed for teaching and research projects. They could be useful for studies about ecological recovery, particularly in forestry, says Terzin. who named the newly discovered insect after Augustana as a thank you for supporting his previous research trip to the Philippines in 2016, and as a nod to the Camaros-based campus's increasing emphasis on undergraduate studies. One of only a handful of Western researchers issued a permit to explore the country's national parks. Terzan hopes to find more new insect species when he goes back in 2025. He also says the discovery of the two weevils might encourage the Philippine government to welcome more international scientists. He says, generally speaking, the country does a good job protecting its natural resources, but there's an insufficient number of researchers to describe all the biodiversity here. Learning more about it could increase awareness to protect it. It's a huge world with lots of still undescribed wonders and species. That is fantastic. To everybody involved with finding a dodo bird of a beetle, a little weevil, and to Cassidy for sending in that article. Cheers. Let's see. What do we got next? Ah, yes, there it is. I call this one Quite the Unlikely Herd. But I will copy and paste this in the chat if y'all want to read along. I mean, it's 9%. I'm getting a little rosy in the cheeks. So it's doing its job. It's doing its job. I drank a lot this weekend. So, 1,000 manatees converge on Florida State Park to keep warm in record-breaking sighting. Those are not rocks you see in this beautiful turquoise water. They aren't fish either. As incredible as it sounds, those are manatees. At Blue Spring State Park in Florida, rangers and wildlife biologists have been bowled over by the number of manatees coming into the park's warm and shallow lagoons to wait out the winter. The park has been a refuge for the animals against sudden cold snaps for decades, and it's tradition for rangers to take a manatee count every winter. This year, the numbers were higher than ever before, with no morning being more memorable than January 21st. On that day, 932 manatees were found throughout the lagoons, 200 more than the highest previously recorded aggregation, which is the term for a group of manatees. Sean, I had a beer this weekend that was 18.7 and I shrugged it off like it was water. Watch your mouth. Fin du monde. Despite their large rotund bodies reminiscent of seals and walruses, manatees have just 1 inch of fat and can't survive in water that's colder than 68 degrees Fahrenheit, freedom units, indefinitely, according to Smithsonian's Christian Thorsberg. It made my cheeks rosy. Gosh, you're dragging this out. When winter weather drops water temps, these animals, called sea cows, because of their gentle ho-hum grazing demeanor, seek out warm waters further inland. The fact that so many were able to come to Blue Springs is really encouraging, says Cora Burcham, a manatee research associate at the nonprofit Save the Manatee Club. Talking with NPR, Burcham explained that it means they have a good intergenerational understanding of their environment, increasing the odds of intergenerational survival from similar weather events. Between 7,000 and 11,000 manatees live across Florida, a significant increase from 50 years ago when they only numbered 1,000. Well, to everybody that has to go out and do a manatee count, and to the aggregate of sea cows, cheers. All right, this next one was sent in by Charlie as well. I called this one Luna Becomes a Mom. And I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. Sea cows. And I'll wait for my laptop to calm down. Jesus Christ. That article wasn't that spicy, buddy. Sometimes I forget I have a mute button on this microphone. Owl mama, whose eggs didn't hatch, can't contain joy when she finds babies in the nest. She immediately knew what she had to do. A British wildlife photographer named Robert E. Fuller has created some truly beautiful works of art. Robert E. Fuller also has a Facebook page and a YouTube page. I implore you to check them out if this article touches you in any way, shape, or form. He has done a phenomenal work cataloging the nesting habits and the lives of different raptors, from kestrels and other hawks to owls. And he sets up his own bird boxes that are really naturally built for these birds to live in, and so that he can get these amazing shots of their lives. And he has names for all of them. It's absolutely beautiful. No, Donna, she did not eat them. So yeah, check out Robert E. Fuller if you get the chance. He lives and works in Yorkshire in the UK, and he builds habitats in his garden to bring in wildlife. Monitoring their behavior helps him to make his paintings and other creative projects. Fuller also rescues animals, including orphaned or lost owlets, aka baby owls. Raptor babies. I regularly place orphaned or lost owlets into tawny owl nests, and these birds accept the young chicks as their own. Their urge to protect and nurture is strong, Fuller explains in a caption of one of his YouTube videos. I have watched a ton of them. I love them. One of the tawny owls that Fuller has playing the role of adoptive mom is named Luna. Luna was actually a rescued owl herself. She was taken in by owls at Fuller's place in 2017 and raised as their own. Because of their care and protection, Luna grew to be a healthy adult owl who wanted to be a mother to her own owls. Luna worked towards being a mom for 2 years, but her eggs didn't end up hatching. She also lost an entire batch of eggs in the previous year, according to the dodo. But thankfully, Luna still had the chance to become a mom. Fuller came across 2 other owlets who were in need of a mother. He knew that placing the babies with Luna would help her to fulfill her motherly instincts and give them a chance at survival. So Fuller placed the 2 owlets inside Luna's nest and waited for her to come back. He was hoping that she would accept the babies as her own and raise them. Thankfully, Luna immediately took the 2 little babies. Luna lunged into her tree hole after peeking her head in and spotting the 2 babies. She hurried on over to them and placed the babies under her wings and got right to covering them up to make sure they were warm and protected. Wait for it, Donna. Luna is not a solo mom. According to All About Birds, this is called brooding. Female owls will sit on their young to help regulate the body temperature of their babies until they have enough feathers and can regulate their own body temperatures. Fuller was overjoyed to see that these 2 little babies have a new mom. Their dad was also thrilled. So after a long wait, Luna the tawny owl is finally a mom, Fuller wrote. Luna's partner, Bomber, also welcomed the owlets into their home. The first time Bomber the tawny owl discovers the 2 rescued chicks I placed in the nest, he seems very excited. But Luna seems a little protective and doesn't let him too close just yet. She lets him have a quick look, then guides him out of the nest with a firm claw on his leg, as if to say, "Now go and get them some food," Fuller remarked. The babies are doing so well with their new adopted parents, and once they're old enough, they'll be able to set off on their own. What a happy ending. And in the article at the end, there is Robert Fuller's video of when Luna met her babies. That is fantastic. To Robert Fuller and his amazing work with wildlife, to Charlie for sending in this article, and to Luna and Bomber, 2 adoptive tawny owl parents, cheers. I've seen the videos like chickens brooding when I watch like Goldshaw Farms videos. I called this next one, This is Why We Love the Coast Guard. And I will copy and paste this article in the chat for y'all to read along. It's scratching, dude. U.S. Coast Guard inspectors rescue stowaway dog from shipping container. It was amid a mountain of shipping containers that U.S. Coast Guard inspectors managed to locate this sweetheart who was trapped inside for as many as 8 days without food or water. At the international port in Houston, I think I went there before when I was young and we lived in Houston. Ryan McMahon, a petty officer. My father was a petty officer at one time, second class, was conducting a routine inspection of the more than 10,000 containers that fill the port at any time when he and his colleagues detected the sound of scratching coming from one of them. I actually liked living in Houston. The container was about 25 feet up the stacks, and they had to use a crane to bring it down. Inside were a couple of junked cars and a small, happy dog. She just seemed happy more than anything to be out of that dark space and in the arms of people that were going to take care of her, McMahon told the AP. Before taking her to forever changed animal rescue in the suburb of Houston called Pasadena, they decided to name her Connie. Coast Guard spokesman said that she was likely a junkyard resident in her former life and ran into one of the junked cars, perhaps in a bout of fear, before it was loaded into the container. Yeah, ain't that the truth, Sean? It would take at least another week to get to where she was going on a cargo ship, and 2 weeks without food or water. I don't think she would have made it, McMahon said. Perhaps the most fitting end of the story would have been for one of the inspectors to adopt Connie, the container ship dog, but sadly it wasn't the right time for any of them. However, at the shelter, Connie is reported to have won everyone over with her wonderful attitude, and while receiving treatment for heartworm and malnourishment, she will soon be ready for adoption. To the U.S. Coast Guard, and to Connie, the container ship dog. Cheers. All right, so that gets us out of Category 3 and gets us into Category 4, Wholesome Notes. And I think 2 of the 3 of these were sent in by Charlie. So this week, for this episode, Charlie is our article winner for sending in a total of, 5 articles, I think. Young Digging Up the Old, Luna Becomes a Mom, Above and Beyond, and the last one, yep. So I called this one Above and Beyond. But I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. This one hits close to home for a few of us, including Charlie and I. We both live here in Michigan. So for all of our Michigan folks, waffle. Lily, it's waffle. So I called this one Above and Beyond. Actual title: Muskegon bus driver goes above and beyond for students of all abilities on board. You do, Cassidy. You do have some major competition. She dropped 4 great art. She dropped 5 on me, but one of them wasn't good news. So, 4 out of the 13. Yeah, did we have 13 articles this week? Jeez, I didn't realize we had 13 again. But yeah. Step it up. All right. After retiring from the paper mill, Randy Fortier looked for something to fill his time. What he found instead? A dream job. School spirit comes in every shade, but a feathered brown cap and a big yellow bus are the colors that define Randy Fortier. Never thought I'd be doing this job, said Randy. Lo and behold, here I am. Retiring after 30 years with the paper mill, he looked for a new reality. What he found instead? A dream. Yeah, but it was a good one, Cassidy. Don't worry. Sean, it's Eliza Ashley Waffle. I don't remember what her full name is on Facebook. I just call her Charlie. I look forward to getting up in the morning and going to work. I miss it when I'm not here, he said. I just see the parents and what they go through with the special needs kids, and I just want to let them know that I take good care of their kids. Students seeking an uneventful trip at Reith's Puffer High School best find another ride home. Sometimes I sing too, or we play the radio. I'll go back and just talk to them. And sometimes we dance. I suppose on a regular bus, they'd probably call me crazy, said Randy. Eliza Ashley Irwin, that's right. Thank you. Puffer. Yes, it is Puffer. I just give them love, and you get it back 100-fold. Patty Harpster, Director of Bus Services, assures us nothing in the job description includes Randy's above and beyond work. Very proud to have him work here, said Patty. We're getting compliments from the parents, and everybody is just so happy we have him. You need to be an everyday hero to work here, she smiled. And Randy is definitely one of them. Crystal Haynes, mom of 3, couldn't agree more. You could be having a bad day, and you see that guy, and he just makes everything so much better, said Crystal. Crystal's daughters, Destiny and Gabrielle, both ride Randy's bus. When they're wheeled down the driveway every morning to his bus ramp, they kick their feet in excitement. Knowing that your kids are in good hands, that's a big important thing, said Crystal. He's like a gift from God. But that gift from God, once cursed with loss of his wife. I was 70 years old at the time. We were married for almost 48 years, and I thought that was probably the end of things, said Randy. Then the man, blessed with a bus full of students, lost one of his own. I always thought I was a tough guy, and I had thick skin. But I also lost a grandson, Randy said through tears, to suicide. He'd come home and he'd bang around all the pots and pans, making his meals for the week. It kind of irritated me. Well, when he was gone, that's the first thing I missed. All that banging around, all that noise. It was gone, he said. Nothing could fill the empty seats in his life, but the packed rows, they help. It's made me look at life a lot different. Life is short, said Randy. I'm 76 years old now, and it's just gives me meaning. Life made all the more meaningful by his new co-pilot. Shortly after my wife had passed away, I found out she lost her husband a year before that, and she just told me if there was ever anybody I wanted to talk to, she was available, Randy explained. We started visiting and going out to dinner and talking, and here we are married 10 months, smiled Annette. So Randy has a co-pilot named Annette. His bus aide turned wife, Annette. He's hilarious. He keeps me laughing, keeps me going, she said. Makes my day every day. The man with a brown feather cap, now riding off into the colorful sunset on a big yellow bus. I just never dreamed it would go this way in my life, but here I am, smiled Randy. I'll do it till I guess I can't do it anymore. And there is a video from WZZM 13.
The city of Grand Rapids is defending the actions of police officers who handcuffed an 11-year-old girl in 2017. Honesty Hodge was handcuffed at gunpoint by GRPD officers while they looked for an attempted murder suspect. This past November, Honesty's mother filed a civil suit against the city's 3 officers involved. The suit alleges Honesty's wife.
There we go. The news went crazy there for a minute, folks. I apologize. That was a huge technical failure. All right. To Randy and Annette, and to Reith's Puffer for having just a wonderful bus driver. Cheers. I know, right? I should probably engage reader mode. I have an ad blocker now that usually stops like pop-ups like that too, but something happened there. Oh well. All right, I called this next one Play That Funky Music. and I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. This one hit a little close to me, just from seeing the splash art, the picture for it. Blind jazz sax teacher inspires students to feel their instruments, uses his disability as a teaching tool. From a Tampa Performing Arts Conservatory comes the story of a blind jazz saxophonist who uses his disability as a teaching tool. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi, he encourages his students to act on instinct, to feel the music through their instruments, and not let the waking world deceive them. Welcome to every day of my life, said Matthew Wellmuller in his jazz improvisation class after turning the lights off. Then we have a big laugh, he adds. Profiled in Fox 13's Extraordinary Ordinary segment with Walter Allen, Wellmuller teaches Jazz Advanced, Basic, and Improv at the Patel Conservatory in Tampa. When Wellmuller started playing, he needed Braille sheet music, and pieces would take months, even years to learn. As if that weren't difficult enough, few people in the country were capable of providing Braille music, so he started brailing his own with the help of his mom, all the way through college. They can't look at their instruments. Now, they have to feel their instruments with their fingers and hands, right? Wellmuller told Fox 13. Now we've got to listen to the music. We can't read it. It forces the students to use their other senses. Which is an awesome trick. Advanced jazz musicians will understand that during improvisational sessions, a musician has to be ready for sudden changes in time signature or key. This is nearly impossible to express through sheet music. At least in this regard, the children are learning in the best way for this unorthodox yet traditional form of jazz music. As an educator with blindness, Wellmuller stresses turning any disadvantage into an advantage, a teaching philosophy that has led some students to tell the man that he has changed the way they look at life. It's everything for me as an educator to hear someone say that you changed their life, he states. It's awe-inspiring, and I hope that I can inspire others who are dealing with their situations, disabilities, barriers, and challenges in the same way that I have. And there is a video from Fox 13 about Mr. Wellmuller and his unorthodox but incredible teaching. That is something else. To everybody in that class and to Mr. Wellmuller and his teaching style, play that funky music. Cheers. We are down to our last article for the night, and this one sent in by Charlie. So thank you very much, Charlie. And I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. West Michigan couple celebrates 79 years of marriage. A couple in West Michigan is celebrating nearly 80 years of marriage. 13 on Your Side visited them at the home they've been sharing nearly all that time to get the scoop on their secret to everlasting love. Robert and Betty Jensen were married in 1945. Never go to bed angry. Always kiss each other goodnight and tell them you love them is just one of the tips Betty shared. She said they were married when we were 17 and 18, not long after the two met just steps away from where the interview took place. Well, he was out here plowing with some horses, and I thought he looked so nice, and he used to have a lot of curly hair, said Betty, smiling. Robert was born inside his childhood home on the same street where he lives now, shortly after his family migrated from Copenhagen, Denmark. He and his wife now live down the street in a home that Robert built 75 years ago. I always figured why we're so happy and God kept us together. God comes first in our home, said Betty. The two held hands throughout the interview while sharing their secrets to success. Love changes different than when you're a teenager or a young person getting married. It grows stronger, said Betty before adding, and you have to always remember to forgive. people because sometimes things happen, and they don't mean it to be that way. She also said it doesn't hurt to look your best. When I get up in the morning, I get up in the morning before he gets up. I like to, and I get showered, and I always get my hair fixed, and I don't have a robe on. I always dress, said Betty, further explaining, I always try to look as good as I can. In the video, you can see Robert shaking his head in agreement. She's a beauty every morning, he said. He's not a man of many words. She's answered about all of it right there, said Robert. Betty said, I'm the talker. He's very quiet, very easy to get along with. Very seldom ever seen him get ugly or mean. He did share a small bit of advice. Just agree with everything, said Robert, laughing. You heard it, man. Just agree with everything. He's a man who shows his love not just with words, but with action. He's a carpenter who built homes for all 3 of his children. Susan Goings is their daughter, she said. They've just been such an example. Speaking of her parents, as she described how actively they are, even in their 90s. Dad mows lawn, Mom drives, and they keep their own house up pretty much. For an old couple, I think we're doing pretty good, said Betty. Her final words of advice, each one gives 100%. It's not 50%. Each one gives 100 to make it a good life. At 96 and 97 years old, the 2 are living on their own. They said they've never been smokers or drinkers. They also said after living this long, they've seen a lot of good and bad. They've lost a son and a grandson, but said that their love has only grown stronger through it all. Both of their living children have been married for more than 50 years. And there is a WZZM 13 report about them where you can see their interview. That is true. That is true. I don't think it's that he stays quiet. I think he just doesn't have a lot to say. But I don't know the man, so I won't comment beyond that. But that is an amazing story for these two. For Robert and Betty Jensen. Congratulations to 79 years of marriage. Cheers to you both. And cheers to Charlie for sending that one in prior to Valentine's Day. That is, Lily. That one is real wholesome. Well, that's about it. 13 articles, 13 great articles. Charlie's our winner this episode for the most sent in that we found to be good news. She's hoping it'll be her. Yeah. That's about it. Thank you all for tuning in or catching the replay on the Knicks News Facebook page and in the future the Knicks News YouTube page. If you can, please drop a like. It helps with the algorithms and stuff. I don't know. I'm not adding that to the rotation of things I say at the end. It's just, I'm just throwing it in there. It bumps things up. And I do really want to grow Knicks News. I love having everybody, and I want to... Not even here to get your trophy. I love expanding this, and I want to keep expanding it. So, yeah, every little bit helps. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, we're usually live every other Sunday. We will be live in 2 weekends from now on Sunday, February 25th. We will be live at 9 p.m., probably our usual standard hour. I encourage participation, so if you feel inclined, you can message or post suggestions for a news brew, a shout-out, a news quote, and you can, of course, send in good news articles that we can present on future episodes. If possible, I do appreciate a variety of articles that are spread out across those 4 categories that we've got, and those, again, are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and the wholesome notes that we like to end on, so... That's about it. Sean, I never said I was going to flip weeks. I said I got to get another episode in, so I hit my 27 or my 26 for the year. So maybe I'll shoot for 27 this year. Who knows? We'll do all sorts of fun stuff in 2024. But that's about it, so I'll catch you all later. I love you all. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and have a great night. And I'll play us out.